You're speaking of the idea that theater is like a church, right? That we sort of come together and we appreciate and all sort of observe and experience this moment together collectively. And so there's a singular, but then there's also each individual has their takeaway, but collectively we sit there together and that's all part of it. And the live experience, sitting next to another warm body, your elbows touching, and what does that do to us? I have tried. At first, I didn't know how I was doing it or why I was doing it until I actually talked to someone that explained it to me, to craft stories that build on that experience. So instead of just writing a straight comedy or writing a straight, first of all, if I distill the narrative so that there's rich, silent, and unspoken questions hanging in the air, immediately right out the gate, you have a form of entrancement, a form of hypnosis. And all great storytellers use these devices to pull the listener in, to bring them a little closer. Pastors do it, great speakers do it, presidents have done it, speechwriters. They know that if they weave in some lyricism, some metaphor, and if they don't close every single loop right at the moment that they open it. Like if they leave some things unsaid, or they open a loop here and then they come back to it later in the sermon or the speech or the story or the play, the time that it takes, that real estate that we traverse between the moment that loop was open until the moment the resolve comes back around, we are entrenched. We are entranced. We are invested because we know something's coming. We don't know how it's going to resolve. But this person has crafted a narrative in such a way that we're kind of on the edge of our seats wanting to know how it's going to end up. Not only do I recognize a spiritual release that I feel when I'm in an audience and I'm watching a well-crafted play, right? But I capitalize on that by trying to do the best kind of storytelling I can, whittling and chipping away at it until it's bare and to the bone and not a lot of extraneous noise. And silences. I'm not talking full Annie Baker silences, but silence. Silence is its own storyteller. So much that happens in the unspoken moment because I want my stories to sort of palliatively at least take an injured, wounded listener through a story and hopefully bring them out on the other side with some kind of hope, some kind of answer. I never lose sight of that as a writer, that is my job. That's my vocation. That is what I'm meant to do, to tell stories of hope, stories of transcendence, stories that have at least a component of joy and abandon and healing. Even in my darkest stories, there's joy, a component of connectedness, these two disparate souls, right? We see how they came together. We see them at their best, even if it's for only 13 seconds. We're like, oh, I see it. I see why they love each other. I mean, they're tearing each other apart. If you can get to the end of something like August Osage County or Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and at least be able to see why they love each other, then the rest of it is more palatable because we see. And in some ways, it's even more tragic because we're like, how did two people that love each other so much, how could they have gone and drifted so far apart? And that's life. That's just life.